Gen Z has found its own way to do many things, and in keeping with that tradition, they are even trading a little differently, turning to prediction market platforms like Polymarket to wager on just about anything. Egg prices, interest rates, the U.S. presidential election traders are even betting over $1 million on who will be the next pope. This is breeding a new wave of market makers among young traders. And I find this very interesting because actually I'm thinking back to election night when Polymarket really, the last few times, has been able to call the election. But people get some sort of thrill on betting on things that are not, typical, like investing in a stock or whatever it is. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think it just goes to show, thanks to technology, you can bet on anything. You see it now in sports betting. Once upon a time, it was a score of the game. Now it's every little play. Is he going to scratch his head before he throws the ball and things like that? And so you're going to see more and more of this, and new things are going to keep cropping up. Like, will New York ever get their streets right?
Or will the Knicks give up a 14-point lead in 2 minutes or something like that, which was a heartbreaking thing. I would make a distinction between betting and trading or prediction markets. In other words, I love that there's valuable information in the way people are pricing in election outcomes. I'm a big price discovery guy. I know my friend Steve is too. I think that these opportunities for pricing in election results and whatnot is very helpful. But that's different than guessing who's going to miss a free throw and so forth. So sports betting is recreational. Informational prediction markets actually can be quite valuable. Now, 23-year-olds, I don't know.
So I love, since COVID, this more like democratization of finance. We had this young generation being able to participate in markets in a way that I think felt like they were pushed out of, and it was up to the elite and the big institutional investors. So I do like that you have the Kalshis, we've talked about the Robin Hoods, being able to bring in young investors. Few thoughts. I don't do this because I have too many other vices, and that's where I get nervous about young people who bet instead of invest. And there has to be, for me, that distinction. I joke at 9:30, casinos open, but at the end of the day, the stock market, in theory, shouldn't be treated as a casino, right? And so my worry is that young investors bet money as a quick way to make cash and are, what's that word I'm looking for? Pushing it together with investing, which to me, I think needs to be very separate.
I agree 1,000%. The only thing I want to say is that sometimes can be learned the hard way, and maybe that's the only way to learn it. I think Edmund Burke said that mankind will learn by example and no other way. I myself have for 25 years professionally managed dividend growth investing, very value-oriented, run a $7.5 billion business doing it now. You know where I got into it from? Getting my face ripped off from trading .coms in the 90s.
Okay.
I had to learn the hard way. I think learning the lesson about speculation sometimes can lead to a maturity process that's good. What we don't need is the state regulating it. I just don't want the state bailing out young people when they go do dumb things. Let them do dumb things, learn the hard way. That distinction between betting, speculating, and investing is so important, but it's a lesson for us to learn as adult human beings, not from the government.
And also young kids learning about credit cards. Small charge here, small charge there. Oops.
Yeah.
End of the month.
It made me nervous when on Robinhood, every time you made a trade, they would give confetti and make it like a casino. And I'm trying to think, I shouldn't be getting confetti and balloons every time I make a trade. To me, that's gamifying it instead of...
Well, very purposely gamifying it, but these are adults.
Fair.
If there's an adult who is going to get addicted to stock trading from an image of confetti, that we have a real problem with that young adult. Now, I know what you mean. I don't like it culturally, but that didn't need state regulation.
Fair.
If they were doing it to 6-year-olds, I got a big problem. These are adults.
Yeah.
And if they're intoxicated by balloons on an app, we got a big problem.
But you're talking about betting on, placing bets on the direction of egg prices. Yeah. That's gambling. That's just pure gambling. And if you want to do it, have at it. And if you have knowledge that lets you be a winner, kudos to you. And if you lose your shirt, oops.
You remember that first few days after the election, we didn't know who was going to win the Pennsylvania Senate race. And so you could watch news networks, you could watch all the different things. But you know what I did is I went to the Kalshi or whatever, one of those prediction ones. I think it was Paul E. Math, because that was real big money from real grown-up people that were kind of putting in the pricing. And I said, okay, it looks like, this candidate's going to be okay. And when the odds in Nevada started going the other way, that's when I knew that the Republican was going to lose Nevada. So there's value in that information.
But you're right about the democratization of the market. I remember the story about T. Rowe Price, founder of T. Rowe Price, back in the teens and early 20s, to get information on companies. He actually went up to the Secretary of State in New York to find out financials of companies. Nice. And in those days, to buy a share was $1,000, $5,000 a share. Yeah. Now you get the commissions are virtually non-existent now.
Yep.
From the gambling standpoint, I would just say I don't like gambling, but like Jamie Dimon said about Bitcoin the other day and made the smoking analogy when he decided to allow Bitcoin trading. Like, I don't stand for smoking, but I, respect, I'm paraphrasing, but I respect your right to do it if you want to. I feel the same way about this gambling stuff.
You know what? Buying a trade in Bitcoin doesn't give you cancer, James. When he used that analogy, I was like, shove that where the sun doesn't shine.
I think his point was in adults making decisions for them.
I know what his point is. I just would like people to retire that one. That's all.
Fair.
My mother died of lung cancer.
That's fair. I get you.
Yep.